Yeah,
Mm.
but well, I am so thankful that you're willing to chat, and really, I just want to. And you've watched a couple of these.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to get your story of faith, maybe even your story of like Trinity, like what how Trinity has impacted your life. I mean, um, I don't really have a set format. I just, Miss Craig, whatever the Lord has led you to say, or I
Well,
just want to hear from you.
okay. Well, I have thought about it. It's been a long time since I've, but I wasn't raised in a church. Now, mother and dad were Christians because I remember them telling about me when they were saved and when they were baptized and all like that. But as a child, when we lived in Greenville, I used to go to church with our landlord. Her name was Miss Holt, and of course she was Pentecostal. But dad and them would always let me go with her some, and I went and oh, I just enjoyed it so much. It scared me the first time I went, because they were these yelling kind of people and all like that. But I really, really enjoyed it. And then I went some when I would come to Farmersville to visit Verby and Wanda, and of course we were all close. Well, they went to First Baptist Church. So I would go with Wanda to church and Sunday school. I didn't like Sunday school. I didn't like it because they would call on you as a visitor. They would call on you for questions. I didn't know the answers to these questions, or they'd call on you to pray. And I know you can't believe this, but I was very shy, very timid. I was just, it just, people just made me nervous, but I love church. Or I would go to my grandmother's and stay the night, and we would listen to preaching on the radio. And I had a little record player, and I would play these records, gospel music, and we would sit there and sing, and I would just eat it up. It just, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
uh, but anyway, we moved to Farmersville in a little house, and our house burnt down. And we were in Sherman. We got word. Well, Dad, I guess knew some people that went to Trinity, and I think the pastor, which was Brother Kaufman, then he always would ask Dad to come. He wanted Dad to play ball. Dad was a ball player. We were all ball players, and he wanted him to play, but you had to belong to the church. So I know we went some. I don't think we went very much, but anyway, but they gave us a shower. So I know we went to church when they gave us our shower and things like that. But anyway, enjoyed it. But I don't remember much of all of that. But then I got married after I graduated, and me and my husband, we fished a lot, and we had this man at Trinity, which I knew him because he was kind of kin to us, but they were fishing too. And so him and Brother Joe was the pastor then, and we got them. We lived off of 380 before the lake down there. That didn't used to be a lake. It was just all big trees and things. Well, you could go from our house, and there's a road, and you would go down in there and go back way down in those trees, and there was some water down there, and we would fish. Well, that's where Durrell Edge and uh, Brother Joe and Jack Hensley. And so we were talking, and they brought up, wanted us to come to church. So, okay, we'll come to church, and we just kind of let it go like that. And then me and Donnie, we talked about it some. And so Brother Joe come that next week to the house to visit. And he talked to us about the Lord and talked to us about church. And he asked me said, are you a Christian? And I said, yeah, because I really didn't know what a Christian was. I do remember Brother Chase when I was younger. We would listen to Billy Graham,
Yeah.
and I remember. Of course, I was a teenager then, but I remember going in my bedroom and sitting and thinking of what he would preach. And the thing that hit me, I don't want to go to hell. And where he says, asked you to pray. Well, I prayed the prayer, but I didn't know anything else to do. So whether they say you ask, and I asked him to come into my heart, but I never really felt like I think that's what confused me. I didn't know if I was a Christian or not. I felt like I loved God. I remember as a child after that, I remember praying. Mother was real sick, and I remember praying so hard, and she got well. She didn't die, which we was expecting her to. But anyway, what I said, but Brother Joe come, and so he said, well, y'all come to church Sunday. And invites, okay, we'll be there. And my dad was so strict. And I love him. He always taught me right. He'd say, do as I say, not as I do. So he didn't always do right. But anyway, and my dad always told me as a kid, you do not lie. If you do something wrong, you tell me the truth. Said, I will come more whooping you for a lie than I will anything. Well, that always stuck in my head. And so I told Brother Joe, I said, okay, we'll come. Well, that Sunday, we were supposed to come. A tornado hit our house. We were in a trailer house, and it destroyed our house. Well, the first thing, we got out alive. I was pregnant, and we got out alive. The first thing that come to my mind was that pastor is going to think I lied to him. And it worried me to death. Well, some of the members of the church, I remember, come to visit us and things like that. But the next time, I told them we would be there the next Sunday. And I couldn't hardly wait to get to the church. For some reason, all along, I think Trinity has been, God has led us into Trinity. Even through when we first moved here, because Trinity kept coming into our lives some way or another. So I remember I cannot tell you what he preached. I don't know the day or anything, but I remember he preached, and I went forward. And he, of course, he gave me the salvation and all like that. And I prayed prayer and asked God to forgive me. And oh man, I just felt so like a big burden had been lifted off me. And I was so excited. It's like I got a family, a family. And I could not hardly wait for the church that night. I went home, and when I got home, Dad and Mom lived next door to us, and I run to him. And I was telling him, and he looked at me, and I told him. He said, "I knew it before you even told me. I knew it." And so then Brother Joe said, he told me about baptism, and I said, "Baptism, what's that?" And he told me, and I said, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that." I was scared to death of water. I mean, we never got to go swimming. Mother was terrified of water. We'd get close to water. You'll fall in, you'll drown, And so, but I thought, okay, if the Lord can save me, he'll help me when I be baptized. So I was baptized, and from then on, it's just like my whole life changed. I became a different person inside, but even on the outside. I began to be able to, I wasn't as shy as I was. And we started church. I got in church. I started, and then Georgia come into my life. And she just kind of took me under her wing. And we taught GAs together. Baptist Young Women had a big part in that. We started going witnessing. When those days you would go to house and visit. We'd visit through the week at evenings. On Saturdays we'd visit, and she would show me, and we'd go to the door, and she'd knock on the door, and it would just scare me to death. And I thought, oh Lord, please don't let them come to the door. And they would come to the door, and we'd get in there, and I just eat it up. And I had such a burden for people to have what I had. And I think might near all my family that lived around here. And I would tell them about the Lord. And I would be so burdened at night, I would stay up all night long nearly. and just pray and pray. And then when they wouldn't come or when they wouldn't accept, it got to bother me. And I got to win quite a few people to the Lord. And there is nothing, well, you know that. There is nothing like that. And I remember witnessing to one young man that was my brother's friend. I witnessed to him, and it was on Easter Sunday, and he was supposed to come to church, and he got killed. But I had witnessed to him and won him to the Lord. So, and then different ones, and they accepted the Lord, but then they didn't ever follow up. So then the devil began to work on me and say, well, you must not be a Christian. You didn't really win these people to the Lord. How many people can you show for what you're doing? See, it's all up there. But anyway, I got through that. I started doubting my salvation. So that really messed me up. I went quite a few years with doubting my salvation, but still saying, I remember what God did to me. But I would just pray over and over and over and over, Lord, please save me. Please save me. And so it was tormenting. And but then I could come through that, and then Donnie was my husband then, Trina's dad. He felt like he was called to preach. And but I don't really know what happened to that. Things happened. We began to have trouble, and we were going to Trinity and went through several pastors, and then we had one pastor, and we were still going, but it got word that I was going by myself. Me and Trina was going by ourselves, and but then some things happened, and that preacher left. They asked him to leave. Well, it hurt me. It hurt me real bad, and I really thought they did wrong, because I thought if a man is called by God to the church, unless he does something against God, you do not remove that person. And so I left the church for a while, and started going somewhere else for a while, and then we got a divorce, and I became very angry because the year we got our divorce, my husband left, and Trina was going to college. She graduated in 1988, and I became angry inside, because I thought, why, I've served you. And I became angry, and I thought, well, I've always tried to live the life that I thought you want me to live. I'm going to go the other way. So my brother, he went to, call them honky tonks or whatever you want to call them. And so I went with him. I started drinking some. Never much. I never really liked it, but I just did it. I wanted to see what it would do for me, and I started smoking, and I went through quite a few years with that, but that didn't. God was with me. God was with me all the time, and God was drawing me back. And I stayed away from church, Trinity for a while, and then I thought, but I always go back to Trinity. I mean, that Trinity is my home, and believe me, I've tried to leave several times, but I've always come back. But God has been with me through everything, and there's so much that I could tell you, just so much heartache, but I thought my dad was, and my mom too, but I thought my dad was he was tops. I seen mistakes, but he did one mistake that it took me for years to get over, and he left my mother, and that year, my brother got married. He signed the papers for my brother to get married. My grandmother died, and we were very close. Just different things happened in all that, but it took me years to get. But I was still Daddy's girl, and I still loved him. And then, but like I said, God has brought me through everything, and I still wonder sometimes. I think of, why don't I have the? I wish I had the inside the drive that I used to have. And then, of course, I used to ride horses. Used to play day. Used to ride barrels. When we got married, me and Donnie got married, and we quit doing that because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go to church. So I sold my horse. I had my daughter, so that I sold my horse. I bought me a piano. I wanted to learn to play the piano. So I took piano for about 6 months, maybe a year, learned to play some. And then later on, once Trinity was without a pastor, we didn't have anybody to play the piano. Somebody in Oregon, and somebody asked me, well, we had a piano player. And Bobby, I believe, was the piano player then, and Mike's mother. So they asked me about playing the organ. So I taught myself to play the organ. So I started playing the organ. So, and I did that for so many years. And then after all that ended, I just thought, what is there for me to do now? What is there for me to do now? But I know he has something. And through all this that's happened, the world that's happened now, it has made me stop. I've looked at things and I thought, we take so much for granted. And we take our families for granted. We take our going to church for granted. We think, oh, I can just go when I want to. And whether you're sick or whether you're not, if you're sick, it's easy. I mean, you might just feel a little bad and say, oh, I don't want to go today, Well, you can feel bad in church as well as you can sit here. And just going to the grocery store, I got where I wouldn't go to the grocery store. Rick would go, he goes to the grocery store or whatever. And and through all this, I forgot to say that, of course, I knew Rick for years because him and his wife moved to Farmersville when Brother Larry, because he's Brother Larry's brother. And I knew him, and we were all close friends. And then they moved to Houston, and I don't know what all happened there, but they got a divorce, and I lost my house. I didn't lose it. I give it away that I got when my divorce, and I had to find a job, which I didn't work a whole lot. I raised Trina, and I found a job to help a little bit. Of course, it wouldn't make the house payment, so I really give my house away and took the money that I got to help Trina with school and to live on for a good while. But I pulled in a service station one day, and Rick pulled up. It was so funny, and I said, I knew he had moved back up this way. I think he was staying with his parents in Tom Bean, I believe. And I seen Rick, and that's where it started. We started kind of seeing each other, and this was about 2 years or 3 years after me and Donnie separated. And so we met and started dating, and then we got married, and so that's how we are. But I have prayed through all this, and I think, the world can just, you think of different things. Anything can happen in just the twinkle of an eye, but we think of people, something happened to our loved ones or ourselves, we could just die any minute. But the whole world can stop. Yeah, I mean, the freedom that we have to go to church, we don't have that freedom now. We will have. I mean, they closed the doors. And I think, wow, we took going to church for granted. We think that we can just and that we've always heard, church and our freedom to worship God could be taken away. And we think, oh, no, not here. That won't happen here in America. But then to see that everything in the world pretty well stops, the freedom to go buy groceries without you scared to death you're going to take something. And just it's kind of scary. And our freedom to worship God could be taken away. And I've learned through this, no, it's not. I'm going to go to church and I'm going to find my place, whatever it is to do. And that's been my prayer is, Lord, show me and lead me and guide me and keep my feet on the right, you know, you lead me and I'll follow. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know, a couple times in there were tears, and that's real. That's life. That's who we are. There's moments where everything's great, and then there's moments where we doubt. There's moments when the devil's tempting us and talking to us, and we listen, and then there's moments that we say, get out of here. And so I'm so thankful that you shared that very real story of your life.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking me.
Well, anything else you wanna say to all your fans? Right here.
I just love them, and I'm ready to see everybody and give them a hug.
Well, I hope so that we get to do that soon. But until then, I can't come into your house anyway. I'm allergic to cats.
I know it.
The first time I came into your house, I didn't even sit down, and my face just blew up. We had to end up going on the front porch.
I know it.
I couldn't see.
That made me feel bad.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. So, but I am so thankful for you, and I look forward to talking to you very soon.
Me too. I love y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.